Hello, back with some more teleprinter work. Paul and Adrian here. I'm sure Mike will be joining us later. And I don't know if you didn't see the momentous breakthrough last episode, then yeah, go and watch that and then come back. But we got the teleprinter printing things, so we could, we had this little bit of electronics and microcontroller, and that's wired into the teleprinter, and it would print stuff, including all of this. Now you may notice that there aren't very, particularly in this nice. Let me put this down where I can actually show it whilst I'm pointing at it and holding a camera. You may notice that we're missing an apostrophe here on this bit that we got it to print out, and that's because although we can get all of the letters, just looking at the keyboard to see what letters and numbers and characters and stuff we've got, there is this figs key which would switch it into figures mode. I guess as Paul is showing us here, it's the same patterns, but if it's in letters mode, it prints letters. If it's in figures mode, it prints figures from the same Bordeaux, 5-bit Bordeaux code. I think that's got a start and the stop bits on as well, which is why it's not just 5 bits. And switching between figs and letters is this little lever is the kind of the key, and so we can manually, whilst it's running, we can flip it between the two, and so we can print out all of the character set, but we can't get there's a code for figs and a code for letters, and when we send those, it doesn't quite manage to flick that little lever back and forth. So today's task, you could get to watch us just break this nice teleprinter that we had working last time. Because this whole section here is going to need to come off so that we can give it a good clean. So yeah, we've been kind of avoiding that because it just looks a bit scary because there's so many little levers and things. But yeah, given that where this lever is and what it's basically, it's just these bars here are kind of letters figs, letters figs, letters figs, letters figs, letters figs, of all the different letters and numbers and punctuation and stuff that it can print. And so the the lever just rotates it slightly so that it basically lines up the correct thing so that this hammer can hit it to make the paper do stuff. But yeah, that just rotates it slightly to switch it so that either the letters all line up or the figures all line up. So yeah, we're going to have to dismantle that and cross our fingers that we can put it back together and it still works. But yeah, we'll be back to inform you of how well that goes. Well, whilst I've been getting the massive levers dismantled so we can get at the figs and letters mechanism, Mike has been chipping away at the kind of case to box up all of the sort of control electronics that we've been developing and the interface. So I guess we should get Mike to explain what he's been up to.
We've got a nice little console case, which is, when it's all put together, it'll look quite neat. So we've added in a little ammeter so that we can check that the current doesn't go above 20 milliamps on the signalling. Power LED, and then a 25-way D-type, which will then provide the interface to the teletype.
Right.
Or teleprinter.
So that's going to go, so the kind of connection comes out of here, will go to the data cable that goes into the teleprinter.
Yes.
Yeah.
So okay. This will provide all the voltages that the teleprinter needs and the transmit and the receive messages so that it'll communicate in both directions.
Just on the data side though, so the power voltages will come in separately with the stuff we've got at the moment.
The DC power supply will power the motor.
Yeah.
This will supply everything else.
Yeah.
We've got a collection of power supplies in here. This is going to take 12 volts DC in via the connections on the back here. The LED will be wired up so that when it's switched on, we've got a nice blinking light sort of thing. This is a neat little module which converts 12 volts to plus or minus 80 volts to give us the signalling voltages, and it's adjustable so we can tweak it if we want to. This is another DC to DC converter that 12 volts down to either 5 volts or 3.3 volts depending on what the microprocessor needs.
Right.
And then this is Paul's H-bridge and ESP controller, which is actually doing all of the clever stuff. To talk to the teleprinter and send messages and receive messages. So we will power it, and if necessary we'll put any additional power supplies in we need when we get this to the final level we need it at. And then there's a little USB lead which goes to a connection on the front, so that when it's all wired up with the antenna on the back for Wi-Fi, metal box will kill the Wi-Fi otherwise. And that's all going to sit in a nice little box, which is a nice console, which will sit next to the teleprinter.
And your computer you can plug in there to send it serial stuff, but we'll also have Wi-Fi through this antenna so we can connect it out to the internet. And
it just uses a little 12 volt wall wart power supply to provide the power for everything, all the rest of the stuff.
Nice.
So it's nice and simple. You know, we distilled it down quite a lot from a lot of our discussions, and it's got a lot simpler as we've gone along.
Which is good. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, and it's gonna, fingers crossed, behave itself.
Excellent. Smart. So that's what you've been up to, and then I'll come back and explain what I've been doing with the figs and letters in a moment. There, we got it out, but as you can see, there's quite a bit of the teleprinter has been dismantled, and basically like we didn't have to take this bit off, one half of the ribbon mechanism, and we didn't have to take the solenoid off, but pretty much everything else had to be taken off in order to get to this. So we were looking, if I show you the kind of maintenance manual, runs through the usual order of removal, and the motor and the governor, the electromagnet, the automatic starter and the main shaft, the ribbon face brackets, the type head and the type hammer, the control lever unit, the receiving cam unit, and the combination head unit. And of course the one that we wanted was the combination head unit. So yeah, that's where we've got to today, is taking it apart. So we haven't got to the next bit, which is going to be taking this bit apart, but that's going to be for next time, we think. And so the final step we'll be doing today is going to be very carefully making a note of where all of these screws are, because these are all just held together with the the things that they came off. So there are three screws here which hold this entire mechanism on, and these two screws hold this bit on, and so on and so forth. So we will be very carefully documenting where all of those go, and keeping them safe so that in a fortnight we've still got them. And then we get to dismantling the combination head unit and hopefully fixing the figs and letters switch. And then try and remember how we reassemble it. Although the manual's pretty good, it, you know, does step by step how you're supposed to remove it, and there is a reassembly section as well. So join us next time for that. Thanks a lot.